Hello, good peoples of the internet, personal and professional development fanatics. This time we're checking in with Constantin Morun, who is a holistic life coach. And what that means is actually that he doesn't dissect your personal development or personal growth issues and your professional growth issues, but he looks at it holistically and helps you accomplish that. Beside that, he's an IT professional in the field of AI and he works with Microsoft for many years. Welcome to the show, Constantin.
Mike, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on, and I cannot wait for our conversation.
Very excited to have you here as well, especially that you're a podcaster yourself. So I'm almost feeling a bit nervous having another podcaster with so much experience on my show. So welcome, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So today we'll be diving into personal development, personal growth, and why it's important to look at things in life holistically rather than taking it apart. And we are also going to discuss how AI can help you with your personal and professional development. So stay tuned because Konstantin is about to give us tremendous value. So, Konstantin, tell us, how did you get started with coaching?
For me, it started naturally as I was growing up. I grew up in Eastern Europe, so I grew up playing soccer, lots of sports. And from a very young age, I was someone that would either pick up a skill and then try to share with people or just teach it. Be it in school when I would tutor math or physics or other sciencey subjects, or with soccer when I would help friends and other people that wanted to learn to get better. And I remember I was like probably 5, 6, 7 years old when I first started doing that and helping people out. And as I progressed through my life, at around the age of 17 is when I moved to Canada, North America, where I currently live. And here is where things got accelerated a bit because I came in with a good background in sciences and I continued my studies here at high school and university. But because European studies are generally farther ahead in terms of what you study at a similar grade level, I had knowledge that a lot of my peers did not. So that's how it started me in mentoring people, tutoring people, coaching people through school. And then one thing led to another. Through the university years and beyond, I started doing various entrepreneurial ventures. So either through computer games, and I would learn something and again, coach people through that. At one point, I played poker professionally for quite a while, online poker, and I had a coaching business for the online poker that was very successful. I was hired by a website called pokerstrategy.com, which allows you to essentially learn poker and get really good at it. And I was a coach on the website, making hundreds of videos, having live coaching sessions, and of course, one-on-one sessions. And that's really when it all came around to me and it kicked in that, you know what, I love doing this. I love helping people get to their own answers. And this is, I believe, the key to successful coaching engagement or mentorship engagement with someone, be it someone you pay for or someone you actually just get mentored from or coached by in your work field or your personal life. And again, I repeat that my thoughts are that the most important aspect is that you don't want someone to tell you what to do, but to get you to your own answers, to help you find those answers within you by guiding you there, by helping you set up a robust plan if you need to, giving you tools and being in your corner.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And it's very interesting that you had a passion for soccer. I see you wearing a Bayern Munich shirt
Yeah,
despite living in Canada. Is soccer popular in Canada also?
it's grown quite a bit in the last 2 decades. I've been in Canada for about 2 decades now. It's grown quite a lot, not anything close to Europe, of course. But me and my friends, we love the game, right? Bayern is my team, so I follow and watch and enjoy playing it and coaching it as much as possible. Right? I coach little kids and
Oh,
adults.
you coach in soccer as well. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's and then of course you mentioned Microsoft, right? I mentor and coach people through my work, not for money, but just because I love talking to people and helping them figure out whatever it is that they want to get figured out. And usually, if you're doing it in a professional world, it's around professional development, right? Which is really at the core of it is just personal development on another level.
So, how does life or professional coaching compare to sport coaching? Like, what are the things in common and what are the differences?
I love that question so much, and thank you for asking it. So, first of all, if you look at the world of sports, doesn't matter if it's soccer, basketball, baseball, American football, all of them are filled up with coaches and therapists and people that work with the individuals. And one of the misconceptions I carried myself, and I've seen many people carry as well, is that those coaches are there to just teach a specific skill and that's it. And that, for the most part, is true, meaning that you will have a coach, let's say, let's take soccer or football. For example, you will have someone that will coach how to shoot, how to dribble, technique, maybe a goalkeeper coach, maybe a defense coach. But then you have other people that look at it holistically. So how does the coaching that, let's say, someone that does defense, especially in defense, fit into the overall plan? So then the team has more cohesion, and the team actually doesn't just defend, they also attack. So what you see then is you have overarching what I would call mentors slash coaches that look at the full picture and help the team out. Now, when you convert that to the personal life, how does that look like in practice? Often enough, you'll have a coach that specializes on one area and they're really good at it. But what that means is that if you go to get a solution from a coach, that means that you have to figure out how it holistically fits with the rest of your life. Because it could be the best coach in the world, but if your life is not set up to take advantage of whatever it is that they're offering, you're likely going to fail. So the biggest difference that I see with the personal world, to answer your question, is that we often don't have the full team of people around us that you see in the professional world. And that's a big mistake that people make. And I made that mistake myself many times, where you're like, oh, you know what? I have one person I'm working with, and that's all I need. Unless that person specializes in the holistic approach, then you're going to likely see that either you have to find other people to be in your corner, or you have to put in even more work to make sure that by focusing on one area of your life, you're not actually regressing in other areas of your life.
It's very interesting as you describe this holistic aspect of coaching. And what springs to mind is that historically, the school and the family used to take on this role so
Mhm.
much that usually people were more connected to their families and to their immediate environment, and they were guiding them through life on the bigger picture, the bigger aspect. Whereas now we have access to so much more information and we have so many more opportunities in life. We move abroad, just like you moved to
Yep.
Canada, right? And you might get disconnected from the family, or your family or immediate environment might be a bit out of touch with how your life is. And we definitely need guidance on that. So it's a really interesting observation that you made, why people need coaches and why people need that support network around them, basically.
Exactly. And I love what you touched on the family and essentially the culture around you, because there's an old saying, and you're likely very familiar with it, as is your audience. It takes a village to raise someone. And what that
Mm,
really means is that, the way I see it is, it takes a village because you need all those people to provide a different perspective, to provide a different type of
mm.
approach or lesson. So then the child, or the person in that case, can form their own opinions. Because what tends to happen, and again, this happened to me, and everything that I teach and talk about and do is something that I've gone through myself and done myself. So what I'm talking about is the idea that if, like the example you gave, you only have a few people in your life that you work with or interact with or get your information from, you're likely going to develop even more biases than we normally would have. And you're likely going to miss out on many opportunities because you only know what you know. So if you're not taking in new perspectives, if you're not challenging your own thought processes, and I'm not saying challenging them so you can change them, but challenging so you can confirm to yourself that you still agree with whatever it is that you believe. And once I started to realize that, I started to surround myself with people, again, not just people that I pay for, but people that I can bounce ideas off of, I can have deep conversations with, people that I can learn from, and at the same time give back and share as well what I've learned.
So, someone who is just embarking on this personal development journey, what would you say to them? How long would it take on average to overcome and truly become themselves, to live up to their potential?
Oh, I love the question, Mike, because I asked the question many times at the beginning too. I'm like, oh, is it going to take me a month? Is it going to take me 3 months? Is it going to take me 3 years to get there? And I eventually came to my own answers because no one was able to really give me an answer. And there's good reason behind it. Every single one of us is unique. What I may consider trauma that happened in my young life, you could be laughing and be like, no, that's not trauma. What I have is trauma.
Hmm.
So everyone has, of course, a different upbringing, a different way of seeing life. Even if you look at siblings, right? I have a brother. The way I grew up and the way he grew up, and we grew up together, we have different interpretations of what happened in our life, which means that our subconscious mind is going to interpret things differently. So it might take him 3 months to overcome something that might take me only a week, or maybe I don't even have a problem to begin with. How I answer this question always is that this is a lifelong journey. And when people are like, why would you say it's a lifelong journey? Think of it as an onion. And an onion, you peel a layer, there's another layer below it. And as you get deeper and deeper, you get to more and more of your awesomeness that's hidden under these layers of indoctrination and societal pressures and lessons learned, the limiting beliefs that you've had in life. And if you're learning and growing as you do this, why would you want it to stop? I don't envision a scenario in my life where I'm going to be like, you know what, I'm done learning. I've learned everything that could be learned, and I don't want to grow as a person. Because the moment you stop growing is the moment you essentially start to die. If you look in nature, look around like trees, anything, right? The moment they stop growing is when the end is near.
Hmm. So it's a very interesting insight. And when you just mentioned challenging indoctrination, like many people don't realize how big of their identity this indoctrination is actually. And when you start challenging this, you actually start to challenge your own identity and start becoming who you truly are. But that's also a very scary journey for some.
It is. And we talked about the subconscious mind. It fascinated me so much when I started learning about the subconscious mind that I've been embarking on reading and watching so much content on it and reading books and going through the research and studies. And what's really interesting is that your subconscious mind does not have a filter, it absorbs absolutely everything. But then your conscious mind is what creates your thoughts and everything else. So if you subconscious mind is being fed a lot of negative information, for example, and you're, let's say, someone that likes to watch the news all the time and stay in that negative loop, what's going to happen? Your subconscious mind is going to feed your active mind all this negative information. So you put yourself in a loop, like you mentioned, with the indoctrination, right? That's impacting us so much without even realizing that. That's why there's so much division in the world right now, and it's so easy to divide people, in my opinion, because we're being fed all this negativity and we cannot stop thinking about it. So then what we think is what we feel, and what we feel is what we do. So then there's a loop there. We got to stop the loop if we want to change anything.
That's right. And this subconscious mind is often thought to protect the old identity. It comes to the defense of the old identity when you start to challenge it and when you start to change it. So it becomes like an internal battle for a period of time until you can overcome that and you can realize that it is not serving you, like that identity that you assumed is not serving you. And like a cocoon, you start coming out of your shell or coming out of your cocoon really and turn into who you really are when you leave those old things behind. Very interesting. So just we made a promise in the beginning of this interview. So why is it important not to separate, not to isolate things and focus on one particular thing as opposed to looking at things holistically?
Yes, yes. I can't wait to answer the question because it's such an important aspect of our life that I believe, like you mentioned earlier as well with the indoctrination, is things that we don't get shown in school. Nobody's teaching us. Society is not really pushing us in the direction because it's so much easier to keep us distracted if they push one or two things. So when I mention holistically, I'm not against any systems or anything like that. It's the idea that there are four parts of us, the way I see it. There's the mental aspect of it, so anything to do with your mental capacities. There's the emotional side of it, like how you feel emotions, how you deal with emotions, how you let them come out. There's a spiritual side of it. So that's around more around your why, your purpose, how you fit into this big puzzle piece. It's not about religion. It could be, right? If you're religious, that's fine. But usually it's about something more than yourself. And then there's the physical side of it, right? And physical side is not just how you look, your weight, how you exercise, but it's also things like sleep, ergonomics, how things show up in your life, the liquids you drink, so the amount of water you drink. And what I have found, again, from my own life, is that I was very good at compartmentalizing and then saying, you know what, mindset is really important to me. I'm climbing the corporate ladder. I want to have a big impact in my world. So I'm going to focus mostly on my, let's say, mental pillar, as I call it. But if you look at the four pillars, as I mentioned, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, as four tires on a vehicle, right? So you have the vehicle, it has four tires. What happens for most of us that drive if your vehicle has one tire that's underinflated or overinflated? Right? You can still drive the vehicle. It might be a bit bumpy. You might run the risk of the tire blowing up and then you're really stuck on the side of the road. But what happens if more than one of those tires is either misaligned, underinflated, overinflated? Unfortunately, you're going to run into a few issues, right? You may likely not get to your destination. You may get to a different destination altogether. You're going to definitely get there very slow. So what I've realized in my life is that when I focused on one thing and ignoring the rest, it was never really as successful as it could have been if I focused on everything. So an example here to solidify everything is, let's say I'm in a physical shape where I am working on dropping a few pounds, getting in shape again because I ignored that for a very long time. What happens when you ignore the physical side of it? So let's say you were like me, loving to play computer games, and you would cut out on sleep so you can get in as much time playing while working, of course, your regular 8-hour job or 10-hour job, whatever it is. It's going to catch up with you over time. So then by cutting out on sleep, I'm not going to be as mentally sharp. I'm going to be more reactive. So my emotional stability and my emotional health is going to suffer. And then likely I'm not going to have much of a connection with anything around me, nature or otherwise, or even follow or pursue what I believe to be my why or my purpose. And that's just one example, right? Take it on the flip side, right? What happens if you don't learn how to work with your emotions, but you're really smart? What happens then? We see this all the time, right? People that are super smart, but they cannot hold a conversation. They cannot share their opinion across because they come in too aggressive, right? Maybe they come into vulgar or whatever the case.
So, Constantin, what was the greatest transformation you have seen in any of your clients?
There was ownership I spoke about on my podcast last week, but essentially this lady I've been working with for privacy, I call her Nancy. We've been working together for about 9 months now. And first, when she came to me, and again, she was a friend of a friend, so I was just doing mentorship and coaching, was about helping her find her why. Because that's something that I have been able to do really well for myself and others. So she said, hey, can you help me truly understand my why, my purpose? So we worked together, we started working on it, and we started uncovering what made her tick, what her passions were, why they were passions, why she was doing certain things, and we uncovered her why. And we've been working together about twice a month for the last, about 9 months now. And what has happened over the 9 months even blows my mind, and she's an inspiration to me. She used to be a professional in the corporate world, but she always wanted to be an entrepreneur and start her own business. So over those 9 months, she was able to start it, and it's now successful. Only 3.5 months in, she is able to have a physical practice that she really, really likes, where she does her own workouts that before she never did. She is able to meditate and do breathwork, things again that she never done in the past. And those are not things because I told her she should be doing those. It's we uncovered different tools that might work for her. And one thing I'll mention here really quick before I continue the story is that one of the mistakes I made in the past is that I saw someone use a tool and I figured, you know what, that's an amazing tool. I'm going to use it and it's going to work perfectly for me. The reality is that we are all unique and different tools work differently for everyone, which means that what tools may work for me may not work for you and vice versa. However, you can find your own tool set and I can find mine, and it's going to be amazing. So that's what we did with her. We found a tool set that worked for her. And her transformation is now she's an entrepreneur with a successful business in a short amount of time. She lost about 15% of her body weight over the time without making huge changes in her life. And that equals about 30 pounds or so, last she mentioned. And she's much happier, has a much better relationship at home with her husband and the kids and the family, because she's able to prioritize and focus on all these pillars that we talked about. Because when we uncovered that why, it was the foundational, essentially, pillar to hold everything together. Because now we were able to say, okay, so you have this purpose in life of serving people, and the purpose is much bigger than that, but let's say serving people. How does this show up in your personal life, and how does it show up in your professional life? And then you realize, okay, maybe I'm using it 10% of the time. Then it's about how can we have it show up more in your life. And the reason you want to do that is because if you're like me and many people I've worked with, if you do things that are rooted in your why, they will likely make you very joyful, they will make you feel fulfilled, they will make you feel happy. So it will stand to reason that you want to do more of those things in your life. So once we identified there were about only 10% of things that she was doing that were built upon that why, it was a matter of, okay, how can we bring more of that why in what you currently do without throwing everything in upheaval, right? Quitting the job and doing things. And then creating a plan on how you can get as close to 100% as you can possibly get. Because unfortunately in life, there will be scenarios where you can't just do what you want, right? There are circumstances outside of your control, but you can get very close to that.
Wow, that's very liberating what she has gone through, and it sounds like she's living the dream and she managed to accomplish what she really wanted.
And it's the beginning of it. Like I talked to her 3 days ago now, and I asked her the question. I'm like, okay, so how do you feel? Do you feel like your work is done now? And she's like, no, I just started. And the same thing I told you, like, why would I want to stop? Because once you get into this habit and you realize that whenever you wake up in the morning, you feel good, you feel excited to do whatever it is that you do, even if it's just the same job you've done for the last 10 years. That's a goal that most of us would love to have, and an aspect of our life that unfortunately most of us don't. Like I've been working for Microsoft for 6 years, but it wasn't until I really delved into my why and my purpose and did more of it in my life that I truly felt happy in everything I do, be it my professional life, my personal life, anything in between.
Sounds really fantastic. Look, you mentioned something about the tools in your previous thoughts about this transformation that your client went through and how to choose the right tools for you. So we spoke about your expertise in AI.
Yes.
How do you think AI can help people with their personal or professional goals?
Yeah, I love the question so much. So there's a few ways in which even simple AIs can help you today. But let's actually take a step back first before I go into that. Artificial intelligence has actually been around us for quite a while now. It hasn't really been brought to the mainstream until ChatGPT came on the scene, and they made about a year ago now. And people are like, wow, I can't believe how amazing this is. But AI, if you look at the apps you use on your phone, most of them have some form of AI embedded in it. Even like Google, when I send an email, it sometimes gives you options to complete sentences and words. That's artificial intelligence, essentially. Now that we understand it's been around for a while, let's take a look at what's actually available today. There's a lot of stuff available, right? From meditation apps that leverage AI to give you the best recommendations for your settings and for your desires and goals and objectives, weight loss apps that use AI as well, intermittent fasting apps, and so on. So that there's a plethora of those. But then there's also Chat GPT, which of course most people know about. It's a tool where you can essentially go talk to a bot. Now you can talk with voice as well, but mostly with text. And how I have seen it help people, especially in the professional setting, is that it can almost act as a mentor and a coach in some regard, but it can help you refine your cover letters, your resumes, your LinkedIn profile, any of your professional information. You can take what you have, go to ChatGPT, give it some prompts, and it can give you a better version of what you had before. Now, the key with artificial intelligence is that it's only as good as two things: the data you give it and the prompts you give it. Meaning that the data is like whatever information I feed it, right? If I give it no resume and I give it no information on me, of course, it's not going to be able to create anything that's relevant to me. So the better the input, the better the output. But the second part, which is something that people have been ignoring, in my opinion, for a while, is that prompt engineering or prompt knowledge. So I can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, here's my resume. Give me result, and it will do a fine job. Or I can go in and say, okay, here's my resume. I want you to act as an HR director of maybe this corporation. You give you some details, and you essentially tell it how you want it to act. So then it can give you a result that's much more specific to your unique needs. And I keep coming back to this word uniqueness, right? We have to understand that we are all unique, which means that everything that we do in life has to at least understand that part. So if I go to ChatGPT and I just use it generically, then it's not going to help me in my unique case.
Is ChatGPT like a useful tool with your personal or professional development goals? Can people actually get value out of it rather than just generic details that are publicly available pretty much anywhere on the internet, on blogs or forums?
Yeah, think of it as Google on steroids almost, I want to call it, in the sense that I can go in Google and I can type how to overcome this challenge in life, right? People do that all the time. They go in Google and type it. If you go into ChatGPT and do that, it becomes more as a conversation. Now, it's not a replacement for therapy, for mentorship, for coaching, but it can at least help you understand certain things better. For example, if you're someone like me that didn't know many emotions to begin with, because I was someone that, based on how I grew up and how my environment was, I only knew a few emotions and I didn't know how to feel them, right? You can ask ChatGPT and say, hey, you know what, can you give me a breakdown of all the emotions that a human being feels, and then give me some details and whatnot. Then another aspect of personal development that sometimes people overlook is we all create things in our life or want to create things in our life. And sometimes we need people to bounce ideas off of or to get inspiration from. ChatGPT, at least from my experience, or any tools like ChatGPT, because it's not the only one, can help you ideate, can help you refine ideas. Again, it's not perfect. You still have to do your due diligence because it makes mistakes with quoting, let's say, science papers and research, but it can point you in the right direction. So I think of it as a personal assistant. It may be able to help me refine my emails, my resume, my approach to something. It allows me to bounce ideas off of it. You can even go as far as have it schedule things automatically for you, and so on and so forth.
Are there any other tools that you would recommend people to explore when they embark on a personal or professional development journey?
I am testing a few of them right now. I wouldn't recommend any because they're still in early stages. So I would say keep your eye out, because based on what I'm seeing in the next, so we're in October now, next 3 to 6 months, there will be some amazing tools coming out of beta, coming out of the testing periods that will be able to help. And keep in mind, a lot of these tools exist already. It's just a matter of, okay, how do you embed artificial intelligence in it? Because I'll give you an example. Most of you that are listening maybe are using either Zoom or Teams or Google Meet to have conversations either with family or friends or in your work environment. One of the amazing additions to these tools, for example, and because I work with Microsoft Teams, is the ability to not only transcribe the conversation of the meeting, but then leverage AI to say, hey, you know what, this 1 hour meeting, I had to miss the first 45 minutes. Can you give me a quick summary of what I missed? Can you give me a summary of the action items for me or my team? And you can literally interact with the AI so then it can guide you in that conversation. This is just for a meeting, right? Imagine a scenario in which I have a Word document. I'm not very skilled in design work, so I need to create a PowerPoint presentation now. When I switch over to PowerPoint, I say, hey, OpenAI, ChatGPT, whatever it is, I have this document here. Can you make me a 20-slide deck? Here are the prerequisites. I want this type of images, this type of content in, and it will make you a 20-slide deck.
But this doesn't exist just yet, does it?
It does. It does.
You can literally do that today.
Yes, I do it right now with my day-to-day job. It
Wow.
goes live for Microsoft. It goes live in about a week and a half. So November 1st is when it goes live for everyone.
Wow.
And anyone
That's
can go and
incredible.
buy that. Yeah. So in my email, in my Outlook, I get an email from a customer. Let's say it comes in French, and I don't know French. It can not only translate it for me, but then I can type a message in English, and then it will give me iterations on it, and then we can convert it in French for me as well, so I can communicate with that person. Right? So you'll have this AI technology embedded in every tool you use, because everyone is jumping on this right now because they realize the potential of it.
Sure.
But I would put this really quick out there. Don't fall into the trap that a lot of people are falling into, which is relying too much on it and expecting it to do everything for you. Because again, it's all about what you give it in terms of data and the prompts. So it's about enhancing what you already know, what you already do, not about replacing what you do.
Going back to you as a coach, Constantin, what are the typical problems people approach you with?
So I mentioned the one of the big ones that I help people with is finding their why, their purpose. So that's a big one because it's always foundational. Now, it doesn't mean that when you find that it's going to be fixed and that's the one thing for the rest of your life. It will evolve with you and with your seasons. Now, once you identify that, it's about taking action. One of the things I specialize in the professional world is called organizational change management, which is the idea that there's a change that an organization wants to push out, and there should be a framework around how they do that. It could be as simple as I'm changing the way I communicate or I'm introducing this new tool. And in the professional world, they develop some really amazing frameworks. And I'm certified in a few of them. And what I've realized over the last few years is that, wait a second, a lot of people are not actually taking what really works in the organizational world and scaling it down to see how it can work in the personal world. So I've come up with a framework. I call it the action framework. It has 6 steps that I have found works really well at keeping us grounded and allowing us to put an action plan together for whatever change you want to incorporate. So by using the framework, I've been able to help people land their dream jobs, right? So we work on the professional aspect of it, like how to prepare for interviews, how to reach out to recruiting firms or even the companies, how to create connections, how to build relationships and whatnot. And the framework allows you to really put perspective around how to approach this and execute on it, right? And there's also on the personal side, it's about how do you transform to become a person that aligns more with who you are inside and people want to be around. So those are, I would say, the top 3 things that I help people with.
That's fantastic. And if people are looking for help to find their purpose, to find their why, or maybe a corporation is looking for an organizational cultural change, where can they reach you, Constantin?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn is the best place always. Constantin Morun. I have a fairly unique name, so you'll find me there. Send me a message. Always happy to chat. Otherwise, my podcast, Unleash Thyself or unleashthyself.com, is where you find the form you can fill out and you can work with me. My official coaching website is under development, so that you'll see that through Unleash Thyself or my LinkedIn in the near future. But otherwise, yeah, just find me on social media, send me a message, and we'll love to connect with anyone and everyone.
Sounds cool. We'll drop those links in the comments below. You'll find it in the description of this podcast as well. So you can reach out to Constantin if you're looking to find your purpose or if you're just looking for guidance, somebody who's in your corner and looking at things holistically together with you so you don't get lost in the details in life. Thank you for joining us today, Constantin. Thank you for spending the time with us and for listening. And we hope you found this valuable. And do subscribe if you found it interesting. Thank you. Okay. Bye bye, everyone.